cover the release readiness webinar for our SMAX and AMX 24.3 release. So this is our third quarter release of 2024. Thank you for attending today. As usual for release readiness, we are going to go through the release updates. And if we have time, we can have some Q&A. So please, if you have any questions while we're presenting, use the Q&A panel, and we'll keep an eye on that and try to answer questions as we go along, and maybe pick up some of them at the end. Housekeeping, just a slide here in case you need more information in general about the user group, including the tiny URLs, if you need to send those to someone to get them to register. So we do these meetings every other week, and sometimes we do feature spotlights, deep dives into particular best practices or features of the product. Like today, we do our release readiness webinars here in the user group slot, and sometimes we have office hours where you can bring your questions and we can talk about whatever topics interest you. This is just a slide to tell you a little bit about the release readiness. If you haven't been to one before, we'll go ahead and move along. All right, so release updates. So here are the broad categories that we have. We're going to talk through each of these today. So we have improvements for Aviator, integrations, asset management, and studio and platform. But these are the highlights of the release. For the complete list of updates and all the information that you need about the release, please check the release notes on the online documentation when the release is officially posted shortly. And just a little bit of a reminder on how we're running the SMAX quarterly release cycle. So this is an odd number release. So we are at 24.3. So these are the smaller two releases. The odd number ones are the smaller two releases of the year. It contains defect fixes and these enhancements that we're going to present to you today. But the update and the delivery mechanism is comparable to a patch deployment. So if you're planning, if you're not on SaaS or somebody else isn't managing your environment for you, if you're doing your updates, you only need to plan this as a patch update. And you also need to know that it replaces the patch sequence for 24.2. So this becomes the latest. When 24.3 is out, it becomes the latest patch for 24.2. And then the even number releases, those are the larger releases. We bring in work from the past 6 months of R&D for some features that require either a longer development cycle or the full delivery mechanism that requires the update process. All right, and we are still providing multi-hop updates in case you have concerns about that. All right, with that, let's go ahead and go into our first topic, which is Aviator. So Dean, you can go ahead and take this section, please.
All right, thank you, Steve. Hopefully I am sharing my screen and we can...
You are starting to share. Yes, I see it now.
All right, brilliant. Thank you so much. Okay, so yes, I'm gonna cover everything that we're doing as part of the Aviator release as part of 24.3. So a quick higher level view of the items that we're doing as part of 24.3. So we've done some work around multilingual support. We have probably my favorite feature of this release, which is AI-enriched workflows. That's running Aviator via business rules in the background. We also have our new conversational history, so being able to self-manage your conversations. And then we've got some smaller updates to help improve the overall quality and user experience with adaptive chunking, some enhancements for the portal and the agent widget, and also extending across live support. We also have a new adapter as well available for indexing external content, but my good colleague Sumjit will talk about that later on in today's presentation. All right, So for our first update related to Aviator, we have now officially added support for multilingual across these 7 main languages. So that's now 8 in total if we include English. So that's French, German, Dutch, Spanish, Portuguese, Italian, and Turkish. But that also supports regional variants as well. So for example, Swiss German, Brazilian Portuguese, French Canadian. The models have been designed, there's industry open source best practice around how these are built, and this is extra capability we've added into our overall Aviator service to provide this. The multilingual support is available wherever Aviator is accessible, so there's no additional settings that need to be done to utilize this. Just start talking in whatever language that we currently support, and Aviator will respond appropriately. Now, one thing that obviously helps, though, is obviously setting of the language in your profile. So that obviously helps Aviator understand what's the target language, but it does have some ability to identify the language based on the words that are typed in as well, but obviously isn't quite as accurate in that case. I've got a little demo to run. I suspect it won't run with any sound, so I'll talk over it in English, but it is a demonstration showing French and German. And I apologize right now because my French and German is absolutely rubbish, and I have no idea what's typed in, so we'll just have to rely on those that know the language better. But I have been told by Jacques and others that this is very good quality in terms of the way it works. So here we're logged in French, and we've obviously gone to the portal and using Aviator from the portal. So we'll just type in a question, just as you always would do in French. So in this case, obviously asking about Google Docs. And the response that we get back is all in French. Look at that, fantastic. And obviously, as you can see, it's identifying the next steps, number of service offerings. And you can see as well from the references it's found, these are articles that are actually in a different language, I believe. In this case, it was an English language doc, so it was able to identify that as part of it. And the function you're seeing there is our Google Translate or MS Translate function for articles, where you can use the API within the product to show a different language. So that can be quite useful on top of this as well. But just to show it in a different language, I think we'll ask another question. Okay. Okay. You can see it obviously doing, picking it from somewhere else. But we can also switch to a different language. And I think we'll switch to German now in this demo. There we go. And now we're obviously logged into the portal in German. So you can see the slight difference in the way it is. And just to show that it can handle, we'll copy in an equivalent text into the field on the same topic. There we go. Okay, and again, you can see here it's utilizing a mix of the knowledge articles or offerings from the catalog, which are in other languages as well, not just in specifically in German or in that country's language. All right. Okay. Good. Hope you find that all useful. Okay. Next section that I wanted to talk about, so again, I got another video that runs in relation to this, is our AI enriched workflows. So this is the ability to run Aviator via a business rule. From the after applying changes option within Studio on any record type, so that can be, request, incident, change. It can be a custom Studio app. It can be on the service catalog button. It can be anywhere where you've got access to Studio and you can run an after applying changes rule. you can initiate a call to Aviator using a specific model, and populate a field. So the way that rule is written, we're going to set a field. In this case, in the example we've got here, we're going to set a field called sentiment analysis. It's actually in the demo that I'll show you in a minute, that we've got on request. And then we're going to call Aviator, and based on the information held in the display label, the title, the description, we are then going to utilize the sentiment analysis Aviator model that we set up. Now, those who've seen us on the previous release readiness that we did for 24.2, we talked about Aviator models as part of them, and that's where you can build out your prompts and how you interact with Aviator. So this is plugging that in as part of this and giving you a lot more breadth of capability within SMAX with this. So of course, you can do the usual things of having it automatically ask a specific question and get an answer back, maybe suggest a solution, that kind of thing. But actually, it expands the capability significantly. So as an example, you could do things like do a risk assessment. So based on a change and the various different fields in a change, get it to do an assessment of the quality of that and if there's any potential gaps. Likewise, you could use it for creating knowledge articles. So if we take an example of a knowledge article a incident record that's been solved and marked as a knowledge candidate, you could have a Aviator business rule that's part of a chain that generates a knowledge article based on that content, but then reviews the content of the incident to write out some work instructions, some step-by-step instructions on how to solve that particular issue. And then you don't, of course, don't need to rely on people to actually write the text. They can just edit and approve and publish a lot faster. And what we will be doing is we'll be doing a SMAX user group later in the year, probably in about a month, 6 weeks from now. We'll do a session all about Aviator business rules, go through this and give you some good examples. But we're also going to be adding some examples to the marketplace. So the example I'm going to demonstrate now with sentiment analysis, change risk analysis, knowledge creation will all be ones that we'll have in a pack that will be available on the marketplace for you to download and copy, follow the instructions to put into your SMAX system for this version. All right, so I've talked a bit. Let's do a demo, because a demo is always a good way of showing how cool and powerful this is. So let's give it a run. Okay, so first of all, we're just going to create a ticket, right? Very basic ticket. We use the standard sort of new request ticket, and just ask the question about how do I log into a VPN? All right, we're going to submit that ticket. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to look at that from an agent perspective in their queue on the request side. And you can see in our grid view here, we've got an additional column that we call sentiment analysis. So we just added a custom field, called it sentiment analysis. And what you can see here is it's saying that the sentiment is labeled as neutral. So using that rule that we showed in the slide, when the ticket is created and it's saved to the SMAX database, we run the query to Aviator to look at the description and come back and give us an answer as to whether it's a positive, negative, or neutral analysis of that ticket. All right, fairly straightforward. All right, but let's take that to the next level. All right, so let's move that one forward a little bit. And this time, what we're going to do, all right, okay. So this time, what we're going to do is we're going to update that ticket. Okay, so usual situation, 2 minutes after the ticket's been created, the user's chasing the ticket, and obviously they're frustrated because they want to get it fixed quickly. So we add that as a comment, and again that business rule is kicking in, doing this the query to Aviator, and in this time when we refresh, you can see that the sentiment analysis is now showing as negative. And what we've done is the Aviator business rule is triggering it, setting that to negative. But in the background, we've utilized that to trigger an additional business rule to escalate the ticket. Now, So you can chain those rules as you want to. Now, I wouldn't expect most people to, should we say, if someone is chasing a ticket, to automatically escalate it. Maybe you wanted to, you know, based on related to the SLA that may be applied to the ticket. Or another example could be based on the overall sentiment analysis on the ticket, determine which whether you want to send them a survey, for example, after the ticket's closed, or maybe you send them a different survey if they were overall happy compared to if they were unhappy with the ticket. And you can also see here within the screenshot, within the video, we've even had the sentiment analysis running as a custom action. So if we wanted to, we could click the custom action. That would trigger the change to run the Aviator business rule and have that update the ticket as well. So there's lots of power that we can do with the Aviator business rules to really enrich your workflows. And say, I'm looking forward to seeing some of the examples that people have put together around this. It's some really powerful options we're going to have. All right. Okay. So moving on. We've also, as we said, done some general improvements to Aviator. So one thing that we've done is called adaptive chunking. So this is how we store the data from the knowledge articles and external knowledge that's indexed within the vectorized database of the Aviator service, so that it improves the overall quality. So we're structuring that data within there to get a better response quality from the knowledge content. We've also made some improvements to the service portal so that the order of the suggested next steps is more aligned to how you would expect the search to work, looking across the service catalog. And for the agent widget, we now manage our hyperlinks. So they are now clickable links. We'll open a new tab. The new buttons option, two new buttons have been added to the interface as well. So you can automatically align to the left or the right of the screen. So you don't have to drag the Aviator overlay across the screen. You can just click the button and it shifts to one side, to the left or the right. And we've extended the capabilities across the request module, so it also works on live support. So if you're in live support and you've got a ticket open, it will identify that ticket and all the responses to Aviator in the widget will be related to that ticket. Okay. As we mentioned, we now have added our conversation history or self-managed conversations. So the screenshot here is obviously of the Aviator widget. If you click the conversations history button in the top row, that will pop out this sidebar so you can see all your conversations. You can rename the conversations, you can delete conversations, you can also sort by oldest to newest, newest to oldest. There's a maximum per user of 20 conversations that are stored. So you can obviously manage those to yourself, but in principle, once you get to the latest, if you are already got 20 conversations and you start a new conversation, it will overwrite the oldest one. Okay, so but it gives you a lot more flexibility now. You can maybe a bit more structured rather than everything just being within one window. And there's no issue with length of those conversations either. You could have one which you're constantly talking on, and all that data is saved within it. All right. Okay, so that's all the topics that I wanted to cover for Aviator. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and just ask
Thank you, Dean.
that come through.
I do not see any questions at the moment.
Okay, no worries. Well, hold on. If there's any questions, feel free to post them in the chat, and we'll pick them up offline.
In the Q&A panel, please. All right, next up we have asset management. Ming, you should be able to present now.
Okay, thank you, Steve. I'm sharing my screen. Please let me know if you can see.
So it's not in presentation mode, but I'm seeing your screen.
Yep.
Yep, looks good.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Thank you, Dean, for the introduction around the Aviator enhancement in the coming 24.3 release. And next, I want to give you some highlights around what will be improved in the coming release for the asset management part. There are several improvements we have been enhanced in the AMX, especially focusing on the enterprise asset management and the software asset management. We call it SAM. So the first improvement in the 24.3 is around the view the enterprise asset subscription in the service portal. So as you know that back to several release before, actually we introduced those concept of the enterprise asset management for our customer to manage their non-IT asset inside of the AMX. We introduced several out-of-box enterprise asset type and the corresponding life cycle attached to those kind of the asset type like full ownership, stationary and consumable asset type. And in the previous release 24.2, actually we start to support the subscription capability for the enterprise asset as well. And in that release, we allow the service portal user to submit a request to subscribe to an enterprise asset. But at that time, the user cannot view the subscription directly in the service portal, and only the agent users can view the subscription in the agent interface. So in this release in the 24.3, we enhance this capability and allow our service portal end user, they can also view the subscription directly in the source portal as well. So as you can see in the current screen, in the services and assets tab and the subscriptions tab, no matter whether this is a subscription for the enterprise asset or for other previous IT service you subscribed, you can get the whole list of this subscription in the service portal. So that is one improvement for the enterprise asset in the 24.3. And the following two improvements are more related to the software asset management, that is SAM. The first one is about the support compliance report for undiscoverable and uncalculatable products. So as you may know that in the AMX, our SAM, at the very beginning, for our SAM is mainly focused on the generating the compliance report, starting with on-premise products. And later, we also introduced the SaaS management part, especially specifically focusing on the compliance report for the SaaS application as well. And previously, for the on-premise compliance report, we heavily depends on the SMAX and the UD's discovery capability to help us to get the those asset device related information like the installed software or running software together with those different CI types to help to synchronize those information from CMS to the AMX SAM, and we use those information for our SAM compliance calculation. However, in some cases, for some specific on-premise products, if those products cannot be discovered by the UD, or for some specific type of the license that cannot be calculated by the discovered installed software information or data. For example, for our own ESM products like SMAX, we are entitled our license as a named license or concurrent license. In such cases, it's not easy to get such information synced from the UD to help us to generate the compliance report. In such case, actually, we are leveraging those on-premise products themselves to manage those consumption data by themselves. And we are leveraging the Integration Studio solution to allow customers to import those license consumption data from those on-premise products to our AMX SAM for the compliance calculation. So that's the reason in the 24.3, actually, we introduce alternative solution for our customer to manage their some specific type of the on-premise products in case those products cannot be discoverable or some type of the license cannot be calculated based on the discovery data from the discovering tool. So yeah, that's a more another solution we offered for the on-premise products compliance calculation. And meanwhile, in this 24.3, we continue to provide more out-of-box content for our SaaS management. So almost in every release, we continue to deliver around 2 or 3 out-of-box content for the SaaS application. And in this release, we mainly focus on the out-of-box content for the WebEx, Smartsheet, and Asana. So as you know, in our SaaS management, actually we're heavily leveraging the Integration Studio to provide the solution to get important the user entitlement or license consumption data from those SaaS application to our AMX SAM for the compliance calculation. So in this release, we provide the out-of-box connectors for Smartsheet, Asana, and WebEx in the Integration Studio. And then meanwhile, we also offer the several out-of-box scenario templates for our customer to do the compliance report for those type of the SaaS application like user entitlement templates for all the 3 application, WebEx, Smartsheet, and Asana, and the license consumption table as well for the WebEx. So by leveraging this out-of-box content, it will help. It's a quick win for our customer to set up and manage their SaaS management for those 3 specific type of the SaaS applications in the AMX SAM solution. Okay, that's our main capability I want to highlight in the 24.3 for the AMX part. And next.
Great, thank you, Ming.
Yep.
Next, we'll switch over to Sumijit for integrations.
Thank you, Steve. I'm sharing my screen. Let me know when you can see.
Yes, it is ready.
Okay, great. So next few minutes, I'm going to walk you through all the enhancements that team has worked on with respect to the integrations and the Integration Studio. The first one being the streamlining of the Integration Studio with the App Studio. So with the previous release, every time you would want to do some kind of iteration, you have had to create an endpoint and then connect to that endpoint and then call the common actions and local systems. Now, with the current release, we've simplified it and you do not need to create an endpoint anymore when you're trying to run an iteration within the Application Studio, right? So this kind of immensely helps in simplifying how you're going to leverage Integration Studio scenario from your App Studio. This has been something that has been long pending, so team has done a great job in getting this important, but yet forward-looking development done in this particular release. The next one on the framework improvement, we have added a new tab where you could see or look at the execution history when you are running a particular scenario. So this gives a centralized view of how the execution has happened. You can in fact go down to a particular transaction, open up that and look whether it has passed, why it has failed, look at the error report and so on and so forth. So this kind of helps you do a better debugging when you are running that integration. This also it also helps you group by the various scenario and then check the execution status. The other improvement that we have done is this is something that we constantly do with every release is we brought in some additional DSL functions that you could create that you could use when you're creating a scenario. I won't get into the details of each of these, but these are something that are available in our documentation, and you could look up and find out what's new in there. Moving on, in terms of the content and the connectors that we have developed in this particular release. So one of the highlights here is now we support the inbound email from Office 365 into SMAX. So if an user sends an email to a specific inbox, that inbox would be read through the connector and a record will be created in SMAX. We have also added a template that you can readily use for this purpose. When you look at the actions, there are multiple actions that you could execute, like list message in particular folder, update message, move message, list attachments, and list email folders. So these are all of the actions that are handy that you would require when you would want to write a scenario to create an inbound email to a record. On the AMX side, Ming already highlighted that there was an inbound scenario created to import the license consumption. We have also created template for import of some of the reference data into AMX, for example, people, vendor, brand, catalog, vendor catalog items, asset model, stock, computer, and monitors. In terms of knowledge management, within SMAX, we have created a template, and this has been an ask from quite a few customers on SaaS. They would want to move knowledge article from one tenant to another. So now this particular template would be available out of the box that you could use to move knowledge articles from one tenant to another tenant. On the connector, Dean mentioned that we have got a new connector on the IDLE for IDLE indexing of core content documents. Now with this, we have already embedded core content in SMAX, and now with this connector, it helps you to do search more efficiently about any documents that is, or any content that is available in the core content. You could also leverage the Aviator to ask questions, and answers could be picked up from the core content document content. This also helps with any search that you do in SMAX. You could leverage any document that is present in the core content. All right, any questions?
I do not see any integration related questions yet, so we'll go ahead and move on to our last section. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Thank you, Sumijit. All right, sharing now. All right, our last section is Studio and Platform. And the first one is a UI level change. The screenshots here are from the agent UI, but this also applies on the service portal. So inside a record detail page, you can have a display of related record information. You can see the example here of involved devices on a support request. And we have this table display or grid display. Most of the grid displays in the system have a default height that will show about 3 records. And it can be pretty inconvenient to review the information in there if it has a lot of related records associated. So what we've added is an expand button that will take the default height of that grid and expand it so it can show about 20 records. And then you can, if there's more than 20 records, of course you can still scroll. Otherwise, it will just expand to show the records that are available there. So it gives you a much easier way to review that related record information and see what's in there. And if you have to work with it or manage it, it's going to be much easier to do that with a view of 20 records at a time. Once you've expanded it, there will be a collapse button so you can shrink it back down in case you want to get to the rest of the page below that table display. And just a note that we're going to always start the table at its default height. And then if you want to review the records, you can go ahead and use the expand button to expand it out and have a better view of that information. And then the last feature we're going to talk about here is template filtering or template search. So when you are trying to apply a template to a change, incident, or a problem, you bring up this pop-up here that you see in the screenshot. And if you just have a couple templates, then that's no problem. You can easily find the one that you need. But we've talked to a number of people who've, and it's great that they've gone and created a lot of templates to cover a bunch of different scenarios of updates that they want to make to the records using the template functionality. But if you have a lot of templates, it becomes hard to find the one that you need. So what we've done is we've added a search template box here at the top. And as you type into it, it's going to filter the templates that are displayed. And that makes it much easier to find and apply the template that you want to be using at that time. So just a little productivity aid for any agents out there that are leveraging a lot of templates. All right. With that, we can go to general Q&A, and can someone, one of the other presenters, let me know if any new questions have come in?
Yeah, there is one, but not sure if it's related to any of the new features. Create record from inbound email. Is this only limited to service request or even incident changes? Yeah, so it's only, so email integration works for requests only, but it's not related to the
well,
release.
However, there is the new integration
engine. Yes, yeah.
So maybe. Let me jump back to that.
Yeah, maybe that's what it meant. Yeah, okay. Yes.
Yeah, so we can cover it in that context, I think.
Right.
Just,
yeah.
Let me just hop back there. And Samijit, you can jump in here as well.
So,
if you're specifically asking about the new Microsoft Graph API actions for inbound email, I believe Samijit mentioned this, but this would be only for Office 365. And this capability only supports plain text at the moment. We'll plan to continue to enhance it. But with this, I believe you would be able to create any record you want in SMAX. It would not be limited to requests. Correct, Samijit?
That's right. And in fact, the template that is in there that creates service requests, but then you could write your own template and create incident or a change. You could create any record in SMAX.
Yeah, so the template creates a request because that's what we believe will be the most common path for processing an inbound email, that you would create a request. That's what we believe is natural. But you could create your own scenario that creates an incident or a custom record if that was appropriate to your use case. All right, great that we got a question. Any others? If somebody, we have a couple minutes to take other questions. And I believe if we could have people raise their hands, we may be able to take them off mute. Somebody wanted to ask one verbally, but if we don't have any questions or hands raised,
nothing else I see, at least.
Okay. Then I will ask the rest of my presenters if there are any additional comments they would like to make before we close. While I go back to the end of the slide deck. And then I will thank all of you for your attendance today. Thank you to the rest of the presenters. I appreciate everyone's time this morning and hope to see you on the next user group. Thank you.